Duct tape, gaffer's tape, whatever you like to call it, I think we can all agree it is extremely useful. And costumers have been using it for ages to make various patterns. But can I use it to make a pants pattern? And will that pattern be better than the one I drafted? Only one way to find out. Hi everybody, welcome back to the channel. For those of you who have been following me for a little while, you may know that I have a little bit of a love-hate relationship when it comes to pants. I have successfully drafted 2 pants patterns now. The first one, much better than any commercial pattern, but I was still very much learning about drafting and stuff, so it wasn't perfect. The most recent one I did, I absolutely love. I have been able to make so many pants and shorts with it that fit me really well. But it has one problem. It only really works for non-fitted pants. And that is because I haven't been able to work out a good way to draft them for a tighter fit. There's 2 things going on here. The first one is the size of my bum. So where I can get it to go from my back around and then down, I haven't figured out how to make it go back under again. The other problem that I have is I am not exactly straight. I've got femoral anteversion, which means my kneecaps swivel inwards, and I'm also knock-kneed, so I go like that. This means that as soon as I start getting into more of a fitted pant, the seams start to rotate, which is really annoying. I made some really nice, tight-fitting, like smart pants for a funeral. And I was sure that I had cut them wrong because they were swiveling so much, and I double checked and I haven't. It's just the shape of my legs. So I want to know if I do a duct tape pattern that is actually following the curvature of my body, will it be better than drafting? And the only way to find out is to wrap myself up in cling film and duct tape. So let's get on with it. Hi, editing me here at the computer. Just popping in to say this next section is framed really weird because for some reason in my mind I was thinking this is a long form video, it needs to be in landscape. But my living room is small and there's clutter. So I've kind of cropped it on the sides and it's basically just the bottom half of me the entire time. For some reason it just didn't occur to me that I could just shoot it in portrait and you get all of me in and there wouldn't be need to cut out clutter on each side. So yeah, just bear in mind I tried. I did my best. My brain wasn't working. Hello, welcome to the floor. There is no way I'm doing this standing up. I've been having problems with feeling lightheaded as it is. So no, I'm going to do as much of this as possible while sitting down. I'm thinking the best way to do it will be to do lower leg, then thigh, leaving my knee free, then kind of kneeling, doing around here. Then I'll still have some movability around my hip. And then I can get into a better position to do the joints. And I might end up having to get the other half to help me a little bit with areas that I can't reach. I am wearing tights that I do not care if I accidentally cut them, because that you know how when you're wearing tights and you walk in and the crotch gradually gets lower and lower and lower? That's what these do, and I do not like that. I'm hoping this is going to be enough cling film, and what I'm gonna do, I've got 4 of these little rolls. because Tesco Express only had little ones. And I've still got a little bit of this white left. So I'm thinking what I'm going to do is I'm going to do like the crotch line and the side seams and the inseam in the white. Then I don't have to worry too much about like trying to draw lines all over my legs. The other thing I think I'm going to do is I'm only going to fully wrap one leg, and I'm going to do it the most problematic one, which is this one. The other one, I'm going to do it sort of mid-thigh. That way I've got a pattern for some shorts. I think that's going to be the easiest way to do it, and I don't have to worry about trying to wrap both of my legs. One thing that I am going to cheat with a little bit, I know I said I wanted this to conform to all of my curves, but I was lying. There are some curves that I don't want it to conform to. That's the hip dips. It's just going to make things more complicated. And let's face it, I am never going to draft a pair of trousers that include the hip dips. There's no point. I've got these. I used these for the Morticia dress, and I am really, really happy with them. They're breathable, they're lightweight, and they conform really, really nicely. No more hip dips. They are gone. I realised that it's actually really difficult to work out where that line is when I'm sat like this, so I'm going to stand up and draw that one on. I ended up having to kind of abandon my original plan slightly, just because this is actually quite hard. Not so much the duct tape, but the cling film. The cling film doesn't want to stay where you put it. So yeah, it's been a case of, right, well I want to do this bit, but I can't because I've got to get the cling film to stay put. So yeah, we're trying. We're done. I got an assist from the other half. So that is the one leg done, and I'm hoping that that line is straight. This is the top half, and oh, I missed a bit, but yeah, other half to the back. Oh, I feel very silly. The fun thing is going to be getting this off. Yeah. That was so much harder than I thought it was going to be. I've seen so many people doing this in videos and they make it look so easy, but it really isn't. The other half saved me. The other half had to lift me up because although I thought I was doing a good thing by trying not to stand and like keep my knee free, once my hips were taped, I couldn't move, and the other half had to get under me and pull me up. So yeah, there was one point where I had to go over there where the kitchen is, and I realised that the curtains are open and there is a flat directly opposite us. So yeah, I really hope no one was looking out of the window as I was sort of crab walking. So yeah, interesting. But I have patterns. One thing that is immediately obvious, which is quite different from my other pattern, and we will see how this works out in a mock-up, because on my pattern I've made it so that it's scooped out quite a lot and give me more room for fabric going under. This one, that curve's still quite big, but we've got quite a lot more fabric going up here. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see the difference. I did notice that because of the bulk of like the tape and the cling film and stuff, I wasn't able to get this up high enough, if you know what I mean. So this may change, but yeah, legs, there's definitely a lot going on with that, with especially the amount of fabric that's here, which is like the inside of my knee. So yeah, and yeah, so this is curvy like that, rather than on most patterns it goes straight. So I do also now have a little shorts pattern as well. So this, it's going to be basically the same as the other one, but I have marked where the line needs to be for them to kind of be short shorts. And again, something that I find quite interesting, on my shorts pattern, the curve kind of goes like crotch seam and then it curves like up like that rather than going like that, in order to get around and kind of under my bum so that it's not flaring out. And this has done the same thing. So I just thought that was really, really interesting. But yeah, these need to be made into proper paper patterns. And obviously there's quite a lot of curvature going on in these pieces. So I'm gonna have to like cut down to make darts and stuff. The other thing is I went a little bit higher than my waist with this, so I think I need to cut off, like, I can kind of feel where it kind of goes in, so I think I need to cut off basically the width of the tape for that to actually be at my waistline properly. But yes, I'm gonna do that tomorrow. I am tired. Right, it is the next day and I need to transfer these patterns to paper. I'm not going to worry too much about where this is quite curvy around the leg, because I'm not going to want it to be like perfectly skin tight anyway. If I wanted some pants that were skin tight, then I'd use a stretch material. What I do need to do though is on the areas like here where it's quite curvy, I need to cut into it to create a dart. I'm going to have a look at my bodice pattern to see where the dart is there, because ideally I want it to line up so that if at some point I decided that I wanted to make like a jumpsuit or something, then the darts are lined up. So that is going to be my first, well, my first thing is going to be cutting off this top section, because the actual waistline is just below that. So I need to get my actual waistline there first and then, yeah, cut into it. So let's do that. Okay, I'm going to look at the back first. And as you can see, this has got quite a lot of curve to it. So if I get my back piece, and I'm going to work out where that dart needs to be. So we're looking at about there. I realise these probably aren't going to match up perfectly, but I can make adjustments and help them along. Now I need to cut down this basically until I can make this flat. Right, I feel like this bit we can deal with. So an area that worries me is like here, because like this wants to do this, or if I flatten it, then it wants to do that. And I'm not entirely sure how to fix that. I think probably my only option is going to be to flatten this out as much as I can, put a little fold in there, and then just extend that. Yeah, I think that's what I'm going to do. That's going to be the best thing. And then, yeah, with the rest of the leg, basically flatten it as best as I can and kind of just follow the line. And then this bit that's going round to the ankle, just straighten it out. Okay. This is the front. And again, we've got that thing where it wants to go into a dart here. So I'm thinking I'm going to have to extend that in order to make it lay flat. But we can get this. Yeah, I mean, that's like 1 centimetre for that one. And yeah, the main curviness is around the thigh. So it will be interesting to see what can be done with that. It's wanting to fold in here. So again, I'm thinking the way to fix that might be to just extend this up. And then it's wanting to fold here. So I think it'll be a case of extending that out. And then with the thigh, just kind of get it as flat as we can. Right, let's try and make a pattern. Right, okay. So I'm just going to draw out my rough shape. Somehow managed to get pen on my hand, which isn't ideal. It is permanent marker, but never mind. Right, that is the shape that we've got. Obviously it needs to be made neater, and on the areas where I have pinched some out, I'm just going to measure how much that is. So this one is 3/4 of an inch. So I will just add 3/4 of an inch to the top here. And this one is 1.5 inches. So I'm going to extend this out by 1.5 inches. What I'm also going to do is bring this line up a bit, just because when I was putting the cling film and the tape and stuff on, I didn't feel like I quite got it high enough, if you know what I mean. There was a lot of bulk between my legs, so I couldn't get the fit as close as I would like. So I'm just going to bring this up. To about there. So I'm going to tidy this up. Oh, and the other thing that I want to do is add like 1 centimetre to the end, because I do have a leg length discrepancy, and the leg that I did the pattern on is the shorter leg. So I want to make sure I add that extra length to the bottom so that it will actually be long enough for the other leg. I'm going to draw this out a bit neater, add that on, and then we can do the other one. You genuinely find this shape interesting. Like, you wouldn't see a commercial pattern this shape, but this is off my body. And I always say, whenever I do anything to do with pants or shorts, it doesn't matter if your pattern at the end doesn't look like a commercial pattern, because most commercial patterns don't really fit anyone. Like, if you're lucky, it'll fit you, but generally they don't. The most important thing is that it fits your body. And this is how we end up with things like this. Right, I'm basically going to do exactly the same thing as I did with the front. I am getting another little fold here, so I'm going to make a note of how much that's folding in and then add that to the end. Right, and like last time, I'm just going to neaten all this up. I'm going to add some seam allowance to it, and then we will do a mock-up. Okay, I have confirmed that you can indeed make a pants pattern out of duct tape. Doesn't guarantee it's going to fit very well though. I think the main problem with it is you can't really get as snug a fit as you want to in certain areas, and you also can't flatten out the pattern as much as you would like to in certain areas. It's not that bad. It's not that bad. I'll show you. Okay, so this is where we are at. At the front, it's not too bad, apart from I feel like there's a bit of excess here that's being a little bit annoying. Like just a little bit too much fabric here. The crotch seam is going too far back, which from looking at the pattern pieces, I kind of felt like it was. But this just confirms that it is too far back, so that needs to be brought forward. And to be honest, bringing that forward might even sort out the weird bagginess going on there. I did take too much off the waist at the top, so that needs to be brought up. But other than that, the front's not too bad. The back, on the other hand, it's not great. It's not great. We've got all this excess here. It's like a nappy. It's not very good. I think we've got a bit of tightness going on here, which is just making it's just a little bit tight. Like if I wanted to sit down in these, I feel like they'd rip across here. So I need a little bit extra here, I think. I mean, that is so bad. That is so bad. I remember looking at the pattern pieces and going, oh, that looks a lot different to how I've drafted mine. Yeah, that's not good. That's not good. But yeah, so need a bit of extra there, I think. Yeah, I mean, I've got some drag lines kind of coming here. So yeah, I think more in the thigh is needed. I do like, if we ignore this fabric here, I do like that it's kind of cupping here, but it does feel a little bit like it's not squat proof. Like I feel like if I tried to sit down, they'd ride all the way back. I'm trying to think where else. The knees are a little bit tight. The worst problem though, the seams are still twisted. After all that, the primary reason why I was making this, the seams are still twisted. So my plan now is I'm going to draw on the mock-up where all the little problems are. I'm going to draw in the seams where they're supposed to be, and then I'm not going to make a whole new mock-up because I've not got enough fabric for that. But there's some areas that need taking in, some areas that need adding, and I do have some scraps of this fabric left. So I will add in some little scraps here and there, adjust the leg seams, and I'll see where we are. Okay, I've done another mock-up. I'm starting to run out of mock-up fabric, so I've done one side as a long short and the other side the full leg. Right, looking at the front like this, you'd be forgiven for thinking, that's not too bad. There's something weird going on with the waistline coming up high and then dipping down, but that can be fixed. That just would need taking down like about an inch off it. But you would be mistaken for thinking that this just needs minor tweaks. Because The back looks awful. It looks absolutely awful. I mean, if I pull it up enough to get rid of those wrinkles, I mean, I've got, it looks so bad, and the waist is all the way up here. Like, oh, it looks dreadful. Yeah, it looks dreadful. And to make matters worse, the leg is still twisted. In fact, it's twisted even more. I am going to try one last thing. And if this doesn't work, then I think I'm just going to have to accept that fitted pants are not for me. Okay, so at the end of all of that, I do have a pair of pants that fit reasonably well, and the seams are reasonably straight. I think realistically that's probably the best I can hope for. I have made a note of all the little fit issues and transferred all the alterations to my pattern, so the next pair of pants I make will hopefully be better, which is a good thing because for my November project I need to make more pants. I think the fit issues basically come down to two things, and that is firstly fabric choice. I think the fabric that I used for my mock-up had a bit more give, so a little bit tight on the bum in some areas, a little bit tight on the thigh in some areas. I think I could basically make this exact same pattern again using fabric that had a little bit of a stretch to it, and they would be absolutely fine. Hi, editing me again. For some reason I just completely forgot to say the second thing. Grain line. It's really important with pants not to cut the legs on the bias, because then even if you don't have my leg issues, you would end up with twisting. And the duct tape pattern was, the front and the back were basically a C shape, so it was really hard to get the legs on grain. Like, I was a bit better at getting the front one on grain, but then the back I just couldn't, and that was making the twisting even worse. So yeah, that's just something to bear in mind. The twisting, I think that is something that I'm going to have to just live with. I've managed to get it so that it's within sort of like an inch, and I can get it so that they're straight when I stand straight, but then as soon as I start walking, they move a little bit. My legs aren't straight, so I think that is just something, it's a fact of life. All bodies are different. Nobody is perfectly symmetrical, so I don't think I'm ever going to get some that fit absolutely perfectly. And I think for me and pants patterns, it is going to be a work in progress. It might be that I have one pattern that is a bit of a looser fit, gives me a little bit of extra belly room for days when I'm a little bit bloated and a little bit inflamed and stuff. And then have another pattern for when I'm not feeling like that and I want something that's a bit snugger. I think the big question is going to be, how did I go from my previous mock-up that you saw to this? And I cheated. That's basically it. I cheated. I felt like this was sending me so far off that I couldn't reasonably go back. So I got my block pattern out and I made some fit adjustments to that. Basically just tapered it in the legs, kind of under the bum a little bit to make it hug my figure a bit better, and I added a little bit more length to the inseam just to account for the wibbly leg thing. This, it can get in the bin. I do think duct tape patterns are brilliant. They are great for things like corsets and armour and other cosplay things where you don't need to move a lot. Pants patterns, on the other hand, you need that movement. The duct tape just can't account for things like you needing to lift your knee up and stuff. It's too rigid. I should have clocked onto this early on when the other half had to help me stand up. There's just not enough give in it to create a usable pattern, in my opinion. And the amount of mock-ups I had to do, the amount of adjustments that I had to make, I could have done exactly the same thing just using a commercial pants pattern and making regular alterations to it. So overall, I think that this has been a successful experiment. If you've enjoyed this video, then doing other little YouTubey things would be very much appreciated. Like, comment, share. YouTube is saying that you might enjoy this video next, and I will see you next time. Bye! The other thing which I would really like to work... Don't want to be spitting. Right, so... this should be the thumbnail. You need that movement. The duct tape just can't account for things like you needing to be able to lift your thigh. Not thigh, like